Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell says he was asked to leave a Miami cafe over his political views and the discussions he was having with friends while he was at the restaurant.
Isn't it funny how whenever a conservative is even mildly inconvenienced, Fox News has to make a federal case out of this?
Now, Caldwell tweeted over the weekend, quote, "I can't believe what just happened. I met up with friends for breakfast at Paradise Books and Bread in North Miami, and while we were there having discussions about politics, we were told by the owner that we were not welcome there because we aren't politically aligned, which is outrageous." You know, now, Paradise Books and Bread, they said in a statement in response, quote, "A group of people came in, ordered their food, sat in the inside corner, talked quite loudly for over an hour. A lot of what they were discussing was very troubling, specifically when talking about women in degrading ways, as well as us using eugenic arguments about their thoughts on Roe v. Wade. Once it was clear that they were finished with their meal, we told them that our views don't align and that the language that they were using was unwelcome in our space. They were offended, the vapors." Anyway, none of that sounds very tolerant or inclusive or even believable to me, but that's what they're saying.
So this clip from Fox News is just absolutely astounding because realistically it just tells the story of a guy who overstayed his welcome and decided to use his dinner as an opportunity to loudly proselytize indirectly to everybody in the room about his misogynistic and eugenicist beliefs. And Fox News, of course, had to turn this into like a big federal case. Like, it proves that conservatives are being discriminated against, when in actuality, it's just that people don't want to have somebody around that is saying misogynistic nonsense or eugenicist nonsense. Now, of course, they're gonna say, I wasn't being misogynist, I wasn't supporting eugenicist talking points, when, look, I 100% believe the store. There's no reason for the store to kick somebody out unless they're making a ruckus or being annoying in one way, shape, or form. Especially with like a conservative, like our society is told to just tolerate misogyny and eugenicism, and we're all just expected to tolerate very hateful people in polite company for the sake of civility. But no, if you're sitting in a restaurant and you're being very loud and making other people uncomfortable, the people that own the restaurant very much have a right to kick you out, to say, hey, you've overstayed your welcome. People are very uncomfortable hearing the things that you're saying very loudly, so please leave. But it speaks to this idea that conservatives have, that freedom of speech means other people should be forced to listen to their ideas, while also at the same time that anything coming from the left should be silenced and suppressed. Because you see, you don't see these conservatives freaking out about people on the left getting banned, you know, journalists getting banned by Elon Musk from Twitter. Somehow that doesn't get them upset. But what gets them really upset is when somebody gets kicked out of a restaurant for being misogynist. Because at the end of the day, not only do they know they're being eugenicist and misogynistic, but they also don't really care, because they don't really care about the truth. They don't care about free speech, they care about their own speech, and that's really just it. They use the language of free speech because they think that it's useful to them, and that's the only way that they can sort of hide their terrible ideas behind something that is popular. The concept of free speech is popular, so whenever they get called out for being misogynistic, well then they're like, oh, free speech, we all have free speech, don't we? Because they know that people don't support their misogyny, as evidenced by the fact that they got kicked out of a restaurant for making people uncomfortable. But the same standard never applies to the left, and it even goes to the things that they say, because they will dog whistle, and sometimes they'll be very even overt about their misogyny and things like that, and just say, oh no, you know, you're just misunderstanding me, or, you know, you just don't know what I'm really saying, and they always make up these excuses. But we all need to understand, it's not rooted in any type of belief. It's not rooted in really anything other than just their desire to be misogynistic. And so they don't have an attachment to reality like we do. You're never going to win them over with a rational argument about why what they're saying is eugenicist or why what they're saying is misogynistic. That's not what they're here to do. They're here to spread hatred and bigotry and lie at all costs in order to spread that. So whenever you call them out on it, they just lie and say that's not what they were doing. It's the same thing with all the transphobic weirdos who say, oh, I'm just concerned about sports. And then all of a sudden, a year later, they're trying to push cross-dressing bans that would effectively ban trans people from public life altogether, or bans on drag shows that would ban trans people from public life. They said it was about fairness in sports or protecting women's spaces, but they don't care about about the rights of women, and they definitely don't care about women's sports. They just care about doing whatever they can to prevent trans people from being able to live at all. And that's why when you argue with them about, well, are trans women women? The answer is undeniably yes. And there's like tons of scientific papers and all of these other arguments that you could make to say like, oh, trans women are women in this way, or in this way, or in this way. But they don't actually care about it. That's why they jump to things like chromosomes, even though they don't understand what chromosomes are and what chromosomes actually do. They jump to the conversation about chromosomes because they bank on most people not even understanding like the basic biology that goes into sex and gender, with the hopes that it's just an easy way to shrug off the existence of trans people. So fundamentally, these people, they know that they're terrible, they know that their ideas are unpopular, and so they lie about themselves, and they misrepresent themselves, and they constantly change what they're saying based on the moment, based on whatever they think is going to get them the most attention, the most clout, and the most sympathy from people. So no, I actually don't really care about the supposed free speech of these right-wing bigots. And I do think it's good that conservatives running around spreading misogynistic nonsense are getting kicked out of restaurants, because to be entirely honest, that makes the entire restaurant experience very uncomfortable for everybody else. So really, don't be fooled by their double standards, because at the end of the day, these people are not committed to reality. And no, it doesn't need to be a federal case when somebody gets kicked out of a restaurant, because your free speech isn't being violated. You are actively just violating the peace and comfort of other people around you in a way that really is just needless and shameful. And whenever you see conservatives talking about free speech or complaining about cancel culture or whatever, like honestly, just laugh at them. Don't even bother trying to argue their points, because they don't care about arguments or rationality or anything like that. Just point out how absolutely absurd they are and let them know that they are not worthy of your attention or time.